William Upchurch, knew that Angela and Bobby Jackson had been dating, but Mr. Irby never asked him about this. We will present testimony from 4 individuals: William Upchurch, who grew up with Angela and Bobby Jackson; Stephanie Williams, who lived in the same apartment complex as Angela Jackson and would see her every single day; Tanya Gentry, who knew Angela for 17 years and whose mother lived next door to Angela Jackson; and Barry Brown, who dated her before she began dating Mr. Thomas and Mr. Bobby Jackson. Mr. Upchurch, Ms. Williams, Ms. Gentry, and Mr. Brown will all testify that Angela Jackson was dating Bobby Jackson, providing Angela with ample reason to collude with Mr. Bond to frame Mr. Thomas and falsely testify that he committed the crime. Lastly, we will present evidence of a very important letter that bears all of this information out. In January 2002, while in prison, Mr. Thomas received a letter from Anthony Bond. In this letter, Mr. Bond confesses to Mr. Thomas that he and Angela set Mr. Thomas up, that Mr. Bond did not commit the crime with Mr. Thomas, but with another man, Bobby Jackson, that he falsely accused Mr. Thomas as payback because Mr. Thomas had hit on his girlfriend, and that Angela Jackson lied to the police in a trial to protect Bobby Jackson, who she was dating. Your Honor, we will show through the use of a forensic document examiner, Marty Pierce, that Anthony Bond is in fact the author of this letter. And although the Bond letter was not available at the time of trial, as I just discussed, this evidence concerning Bobby Jackson was known to Mr. Irby long before the letter was ever sent. Indeed, this court has already recognized the significance of the facts raised by the Bond letter, as stated in the 2007 decision granting Mr. Thomas a discovery hearing in an effort to obtain handwriting exemplars from Mr. Bond. Quote, "It is clear that Irby's knowledge of Bobby Jackson's possible role in the Walgreens robbery and a possible relationship, romantic or otherwise, given the exchange of money between Angela Jackson and Bobby Jackson, and that such a relationship may have affected her testimony, may establish that a failure to investigate further amounted to deficient counsel and not mere trial strategy justifying judicial deference," end quote. Significantly, this letter also demonstrates just how weak the United States' case against Mr. Thomas was by calling into question the testimony of their 2 main witnesses. To sum up, Mr. Irby's failure to investigate, whether it was his failure to investigate the federal rules of criminal procedure implicated by his client's case, his failure to investigate his own alibi defense, or his failure to investigate that another person had committed the crime for which his client was being tried, affected the evidence that the jury heard, resulting in an unfair trial. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the court set aside Mr. Thomas's conviction and grant him a new trial where this evidence can be properly presented. Thank you, Your Honor.
Right. Does the United States wish to respond at this time? Otherwise, we're ready to proceed.
No, Your Honor, I'll just rely on the briefs, and any further argument in briefs the court will allow us.
Certainly, that's fine. All right, we're ready for the first witness.
Yes, Your Honor. Our first witness will be Marty Pierce, and Karina Bogachu will be asking her Ms. Pierce questions.
That's fine.
Okay.
You could stand to the podium and raise your right hand.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give the court in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Counsel may proceed.
morning, Your Honor. Is the mic on? Okay. Good morning. My name is Karina Bogacci. I'm in your courtroom for the first time this morning.
Okay.
I'm
You're going to have to speak up just a little. I think it's mainly speaking up.
Okay.
There you go.
I'll do my best.
I don't think people will be able to hear you otherwise.
Okay.
We're ready to go.
I'm going to be questioning Ms. Pierce this morning.
That's fine.
Good morning, Ms. Pierce.
Good morning.
My name is Karina Bogacci, and I'm going to be asking you some questions this morning. Ms. Pierce, can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Marty Pierce, 19 Hillsborough Road, Clarksville, Tennessee.
And what is your current occupation?
I'm a certified document examiner.
And can you explain what a certified document examiner is?
It's one who examines handwriting to establish the author of that document.
I'm sorry, Ms. Pierce, would you mind spelling your name for the record, your full name?
Certainly, Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, Pierce, P-E-A-R-C-E.
Thank you. Ms. Pierce, I would now like to discuss your educational and professional background. Do you have a high school education?
Yes, I do.
And where did you graduate from high school?
Central High School right here in Memphis.
And what did you do after that?
After that, I went into finance business, and then after a while, I went on to real estate and mortgage banking.
And when did you begin studying to be a document examiner?
About 87.
And what kind of education does it take to become a forensic document examiner?
You generally take a course, you're tested, and if you pass the test, then you become certified.
And did you complete such a course?
Yes, I did.
Where was that?
Dallas, Texas, through the Institute of Graphological Science.
And were you certified as a document examiner?
Yes.
By whom were you certified?
The Institute of Graphological Science, and then by Felix Klein, a well-known document examiner as well, who studied in Austria.
And when were you certified as a document examiner?
1989.
And have you been a practicing document examiner since that time?
Yes, full-time.
And since that time, have you attended any continuing education courses, seminars, and workshops in the field of forensic document examination?
Yes, I don't have my notes in front of me, but through the International Graphoanalysis Society, I've attended, the Institute of Graphological Science. I get those two mixed up sometimes.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. May I approach the witness and present her with her CV?
Sure,
just
that's
to help her
Make
along?
it
Thank you.
quicker, thank you. Thank you. Now, in answer to your question, the Institute of Graphological Science Document Examiners Annual Conference in Dallas, Texas, the same institute workshop in Nashville, Tennessee, also Buckhead, Georgia, another seminar in Branson, Missouri, and also in Denver, Colorado, and the Felix Klein workshop in Dallas, Texas.
Ms. Pierce, do you belong to any professional organizations or associations?
I belong to TACTIL, which is the Tennessee Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, the Institute of Graphological Science, the International Graphoanalysis Society, and the National Association of Document Examiners from 1990 through 2009.
Ms. Pierce, do you have any publications in the area of forensic document examination?
I have been published twice in the Tennessee Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers in their bi-monthly newsletter.
And are you approved to teach any courses in forensic document examination?
I've conducted workshops and seminars, one for Cigna Medicare Documentation Fraud Unit in Nashville, Tennessee, a seminar for Drones Junior College in Clarksville, Tennessee, for their criminal justice classes, and then other speeches or seminars for professional organizations.
Ms. Pierce, have you ever testified before today as an expert?
Yes, I have. Let's see, today should be the 70th,
At 7-0?
yes.
And was the subject of your expert testimony in those cases document examination?
Yes.
Did you always serve as an expert on behalf of the defense in all those cases?
No, I work for whomever hires me and whoever wants to know who signed what.
Ms. Pierce, you've testified in some interesting cases, have you not?
I have.
Can you just briefly tell me about a few of those cases?
Well, I think one of the more interesting would be the Tammy Wynette will in the Nashville area who had passed away. Her will was about 38 pages long. They wanted to know if the signature was authentic, and also some of the medical documents were in question. Those did turn out to all be authentic. And also in the murder trial of Byron Lotax Looper, who was actually convicted of the murder of Senator Tommy Burks in the Cookeville area.
And has any court ever refused to recognize and declare you as an expert in forensic document examination?
No, ma'am.
Have you ever been disqualified from testifying as an expert in forensic document examination?
No, I have not.
Your Honor, I'd like to ask the court to qualify Ms. Pierce as an expert in the area of forensic document examination.
Any voir dire by the United States?
Your Honor, I certainly challenge her qualifications, but I'll be glad to do that during cross-examination since it's a bench hearing. But I'm not conceding her qualifications.
Okay, then that's reserved until after the government completes its cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Certainly.
Ms. Pierce, I would like to now briefly talk about how it is you came to testify today. Have you been retained as an expert for Mr. Thomas in this proceeding?
I have. The initial contact came from Mr. Stephen Schwartz out of New York, and he did hire me to work the documents on this case.
And how much are you typically compensated for your work as an expert?
There's a $550 minimum retainer. It's $100 an hour, or for court or sworn testimony would be $1,000 a day or any part of that day.
Is that how you are being compensated for this case?
Yes.
And what were you retained to do in this case?
I was retained to identify an envelope and a letter and compare it to some known documents and decide who the author of these documents are.
And have you conducted that analysis?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, I'd like to show the witness an exhibit. May I approach?
You may. Were we marking her CV as an exhibit?
I don't think so, Your Honor. It's just for...
Since we use the CV, I think we probably ought to.
Okay, that's fine.
Just so the record's not deficient. So we're going to mark your CV as Exhibit 1 in this hearing. I think that's probably the cautionary way to proceed.
Okay, I'm just going to get a clean copy.
Sure, that's fine. We'll mark it as Exhibit 1. And now, if you'll show her the next document. If you'll just approach and give Mr. Warren the CV, and if we need to substitute a clean copy at a later time, we can.
I'm sorry, I just had a quick question. Did you say Exhibit 1?
Yes, Exhibit 1 for today's hearing. Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay.
That's no problem.
Okay,
That's how we're proceeding.
okay. Even though we have the other two that are already...
Those are not received.
Got it.
That's what we're talking about the first.
Ms. Pierce, I've just presented you with an exhibit. Do you recognize these documents?
Yes, I do.
And what are these documents?
The first one is an envelope from Anthony Bond and addressed to Mr. Andrew Thomas. Post date on there is January the 7th, I believe, of 2002.
And did you use these documents in your analysis?
I did. The other document I forgot to mention, Q2, Q meaning questioned, was what we refer to as a bow leg letter.
Okay, so the envelope is Q1, that's how you refer to it,
That's correct.
and the letter is Q2, or the bowleg letter?
Right.
Correct.
Do you want to mark them as 2 and 3 in the case? They have to be marked as exhibits at some point.
Right. However you think is more
Arvin,
convenient.
is that what we should do?
I would say yes, Your Honor, just as we go through them.
All right, we'll mark them as 2 and 3, and then we can mark them also. The first one, if you'll tell us again, is the envelope, and the second one is the letter itself.
The letter, yes, sir.
Okay.
And Ms. Pierce, are these original documents?
Yes, they are original.
And we're going to actually put the sticker on the plastic container.
Yes, please.
Right.
So that we don't, is that okay?
Oh, please.
Okay, no problem, no problem. And so the envelope, which you sometimes call Q1, is number 2, and the letter is number 3. At some point, we'll take them out and put them in separate envelopes.
All right,
Okay,
fine.
good deal.
Thank you.
And Ms. Pierce, what does Q stand for?
The Q stands for questioned, a document that we're uncertain of the authorship.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you've already said this, but I just want to clarify again. These are the documents that you analyzed in this case, correct?
They are, yes.
And have you come here today to testify with respect to your opinion about these documents?
Yes, I have.
What is that opinion?
The opinion is that these documents were written by Mr. Bond.
And to what degree of certainty do you hold that opinion?
Quite certain.
And how did you come to hold that opinion?
Well, after analyzing them, I spent about 25 hours on all the documents and comparing them. So after all that time with them, I feel like I know them. So at that point, I concluded, and I feel very, very confident about my conclusion.
And you said you spent time comparing them. What did you compare them to?
Well, initially, I looked at the entire document. First, I had to see the known document so that I could have a standard with which to compare. And then I had what we call K1, K3, and K5, 6.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness and present the documents?
You may.
Ms. Pierce, do you recognize these documents?
Yes, I do.
And what are they?
The one that is known that we refer to as K1 would be a short note to Jennifer White on a little pink note paper. That would be K1, and it is signed Mr. A. Bond. The second we've labeled as K3, which is a letter dated Monday, May 3rd, 1999, and it's addressed to moms and signed Spanky. And then we have an envelope, that was addressed to Andrew Thomas from Mr. Anthony Bond. Another bowleg letter, anyway, that's dated August 9, 01, and that, of course, is a known document, and I think we've labeled that one K5, and the reverse side would be K6, known 6.
And are all these original documents?
All except Mom's letter on May 3rd, 1999. It seems that a photocopy was all that was accessible, or the only thing that we had.
And Ms. Pierce, I think you might have jumped over some of the envelopes there. So the Jenny note, did that come in an envelope?
Yes, it did. It was a FedEx bill in there, and I found that very difficult to analyze. I mean, you can barely make it out as trying to read it from Mr. Anthony Bond. So the quality of that was too poor to really analyze or identify.
Okay. And did the mom letter also have an envelope?
I'm sorry, it sure did. That would be K2 and K3. The front of the envelope was addressed to Mrs. Tommy Bond and from Anthony Bond. And then there was a note in there, a little short note on the back side of the envelope.
Okay, so the letter to mom is K3.
K3.
And the envelope is K2.
2.
Thank you, Ms. Pierce.
Thank you.
All right. Are we going to mark those as a collective exhibit with the subparts?
We could do that.
Need to do.
We could do that.
I think it would be better if we mark everything individually, because you're talking about documents here, I think.
That's fine. We have some front and back of sheets. That's a little complicated. But we can mark them all separately. That's K1, K2, K3, K5, and K6. There is no K4.
No, there is a K4. K4 is the envelope to the last letter, the August 9th letter.
K4 is the August 9 envelope.
That's right.
So if we use them, as Mr. Irvin suggested, that would be 6 additional. That would be exhibits 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And they are, 4 will be K1 all the way down to K6 will be 9.
K5, actually, and then the reverse side, well, it's going to be K6. K1, let me see. This would be K, hang on. The pink note is K1. There we go. That's K1. And this would be K2. This is K3. The envelope here would be K4. And the front side of the letter would be K5. The reverse, which, I don't know, would be K6. I don't know how you can mark that, but...
And I guess
It's a front and a back side.
Right, so normally on 8, it's K5 and 6, but it should actually just be 8 because it's a front and back of a single sheet. Is there?
confusion. Mr. Sperry, he's the one that put the K1s on there. His initials are on there. You can see K1 written on all the documents.
Yes, sir.
I assume we keep it in that order.
We are. Since 8 is a front and back, we will. It'll be K5 and 6 on the same exhibit number for us. K5 and 6, and there will be 9 is not used yet.
There's something wrong here. Okay.
And then when we show them, we can refer preferably to their exhibit number or both numbers. Exhibit 5, for example, K2 will be the same thing.
When we go through our analysis, we have to refer to the exhibits? Or can we use...
We'll try to use both designations because someone looking at this, it just helps them be clear. And if you don't mind, if we have a K1, for example, that's your exhibit. That's our exhibit 4, and you'll be able to see both of them.
Okay, fine.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Pierce, you called these documents known documents. Why are they known documents?
Because they've been given to us as known documents, or there's been testimony that Mr. Bond wrote these.
Concerning which document has there been testimony?
All right, that would be K1 or Exhibit 4.
Okay, and the remaining documents?
Remaining documents, I believe Mr. Let's see. 5. I'm thinking that Mr. Bond probably provided a photocopy of his mom's letter, or mom did one, so they should know who wrote it. Same thing with the envelope that went to it, which was Exhibit 5, or K3 is mom's letter. K2 would be the envelope.
And these documents were designated as known in Mr. Sperry's report, is that
That's
right?
true.
Okay, and Ms. Pierce, did you use all of the known samples in your analysis?
I did.
And were you able to come to a conclusion based on those documents?
Yes.
You mentioned the Tommy Bond letter was a copy. Does working off of a copy affect your opinion?
Very rarely, unless it's maybe a cut and paste or something of that nature, or maybe an alteration could affect it. However, in this particular case, it really didn't, because the copy was very clear and easy to see and easy to analyze. So it was almost like an original.
Okay. Ms. Pierce, you stated that you engaged in handwriting analysis of the question documents. I'd like to talk now about how you conducted that analysis. Can you give us a general roadmap of the steps that you took?
At first, I looked at all the documents just as a whole, kind of getting a picture of what I'm going to be working with. Noticing things like the placement on the paper, how much of the paper was used, how big the margins might be, just kind of an overall picture of that, maybe the spacing between lines. And after I got a feel for those documents, then I would want a closer look, a much closer look.
Okay. And Ms. Pierce, is this a standard practice in the industry for conducting handwriting analysis?
Yes.
And how long did this analysis take you?
25 hours for all the known documents compared back to Q1 and Q2.
And do you maintain any special equipment to help with your analysis?
Of course, I had magnification, anything from a jeweler's loupe, from a magnifying glass from power 2 on up to microna, which would be 30 powers, and then a microscope of 100 powers. So yes, I did use those instruments. Also, I have measuring tools, a light box, and that I used, oh yes, and also infrared lighting.
What is a jeweler's loupe?
It's the little plastic or metal small tool that a jeweler may use to look, see if your diamond's real.
And a micronta, what is that?
Microna is like a small microscope, only it's just, you look through one eye, not both eyes, and it just magnifies up to about 30 powers.
Okay, and all the equipment that you just described, does that constitute the standard equipment used in handwriting analysis?
Basically, yes. Now, they may have a different variety, but they would have certainly the magnifying tools, the measuring tools, the light box, and so on, and maybe some more equipment.
And did you use that equipment in your analysis here?
Yes,
Ms. Pierce, do you maintain a reference library?
I do.
Did you refer to it here?
Yes, I did.
And did the analysis that you just described result in the opinion that you gave the court that Mr. Bond wrote Q1 and Q2?
Yes,
And to what degree of certainty do you hold that opinion?
quite certain. After all those hours with these documents, I feel very sure.
You stated earlier that you compared the question documents to the known documents. Do you have any examples of your comparisons today?
Yes, I do. Some demonstratives.
Your Honor, I just need a second to get on the machine here.
That's fine.
Ms. Pierce, the demonstratives that you prepared, do they show every comparison that you did?
Oh, no. No, I did many more. But this is a sampling, so you can get a good idea. We'd be here for 2 days if I had done them all.
And this is representative of your analysis?
It is.
And are these your demonstratives, the documents that I've just put up on the board there?
They are, yes.
Can you please walk us through your analysis?
Okay, initially I gave an overall look of the documents that you can see there. I noticed margins all around top, bottom, sides, and placement on the paper, such as the envelopes. You'll notice that the envelopes were all addressed and somewhat centered, maybe a little more to the right than the addressee. But the Q1 was more centered simply because the envelope was a lot larger. It was easier to do that. And then K2 started in the center, but the envelope wasn't as long, so it doesn't appear quite the same. But anyway, he is centering his addressee. So basically, I'm noticing the style of the letters, just the things that pictorially catch your eye initially, and then I want to take a closer look.
Ms. Pierce, do the known documents look similar?
You know, that's the odd thing. No, they don't. There really are three different styles of writing here. So if you just glanced at them, you would think, well, the same writer couldn't have written all these, but he did. K1, K3, K5, and 6, all those are written apparently by Mr. Bond. But they have, like K1, the note that was sent to Jennifer White looked almost elementary. I mean, it was very schoolgirl writing, very rounded M's and very long, gentle, flowing N's or G's coming down below the baseline. Then in K3, it was really cramped up together, just kind of squished together, real tight. And that's really grammar school writing there. It's very simple writing, putting on no airs, no show, just kind of, and signing it spanky. So then we go to the August 9th letter. Now that starts out very small writing and very deliberate, slow, like you're really thinking it through. Then on down, in the latter part of that K5, it's really interesting. All of a sudden, they start bearing to the right. The letters are much less legible and perfect. So, and that's within one letter. So if you just glanced at it, you would think, well, somebody else must have written that bottom part, but that's not so. So what I found is he has a tremendous variation in his different styles. And so you really have to take a closer look or you'll miss something.
And Ms. Pierce, do people write the same way every time?
No, I don't usually see quite as much difference as this, but say you're jotting down a grocery list. It's probably not going to look like the day you send out wedding invitations or Christmas cards. It's probably going to be neater. Or if you're signing a will, it's going to look a little more professional and legal. So no, we don't always write the exact same way, but it's generally at least recognizable and still our writing.
Okay. So after you looked at the overall image of each document, what did you do next?
Well, like I said, I wanted to take a closer look, so I examined more of the spacing. Now, earlier, in the general overall, I was kind of looking at the spacing between lines and that sort of thing. Now I'm getting down to spacing between words and spacing between letters, and what I found was very, very close spacing. The letters many times touch each other, like and the word however, how, the H-O is literally touching, just kind of nestled up against each other. The THs are very close. In fact, the T-bar actually cuts through the stem of the H. Now the little downstroke below the baseline, you'll see that again and again. But isn't this interesting? We'll go from K1 to K3. Now, the lines that go below the baseline were headed off toward the right. Now they're going back to the left. So that's a little odd to be the same person, but it is. Again, we've got the letters that are very tightly pressed together, so you've got many of them touching, like the GOT, that's just squeezed in there. The BE is very close to ST, and so you found that the writing is just very tightly compressed. K5 the same way. On initial blush, it doesn't look quite so crowded, but then when you look at the letters within the word, you see that, again, they're touching each other. Now, in school, we don't learn to touch the letter prior. We leave a little bit of space for clarity. So then in the question documents, down on the lower half of the document, I find the same thing. Anthony is tightly squeezed together. Bond, you'll see the BO is actually attached to each other almost, and literally touching. BLV and the Boulevard, the VD is just very tightly together. The Q2 may look different at first. Again, now we've got the lower loops coming down below the baseline, or the lower extensions. There are really no loops there. You, again, have the closeness of the TH. The OVER on over, the V and the E are compressed together. So then we go to Q2B, and again, we have like every and every man. The VE in that are touching. The MA in there are touching. The HI in himself, you can barely tell there's an I there. They're so close together. So this is his style and his habit, even though they may look a little different at first. When you really get into it, you say, this is the same person.
So the spacing was consistent between the question and the known documents?
Yes, that is consistent. The spacing is. Okay, the speed of the documents, I alluded to that a while ago in the K5-6, but the K1, the speed of it is vertical and slow. The more vertical it is, usually the more cautious you are about making your letters, more deliberate. And again, you've got the compression where the letters are touching. K3, and this is a little interesting now. And we'll get into the slant next, but you can visually see the but and the don't and the leave look like they're leaning a little to the left. Now look at the word me. It goes way off to the right, so we'll show you that a little better in a moment. But again, we've got a slow speed in the tightly compressed letters, and it seems deliberate. And I kind of think it's tense due to the fact that the letters are really close together. That may imply tenseness there or emotion when it's going back and forth. At K5, you've got the slow, vertical, deliberate action at top, carefully made letters, and then you come on down later in that same letter. Now he's in a rush. Look how he's leaning toward the right. The letters are ill-formed, certainly not as cautious as the beginning of the letter. So that shows your speed is faster now. He's picked that up. Down below, the speed for Q1, slow, deliberate, vertical, tightly compressed again. Then you go to Q2A, which, if you look at the space in between the words, you'd think, no, that can't be the same person because Anthony Bond is really close together. But then when you, for the speed, it's moderate speed. It is a little more relaxed than you would have Q1. That looks pretty uptight because it's just squeezing. Then you've got Q2B, moderate, relaxed, not so compressed as the others, but yet the letters are. They're still touching each other. So although it looks like there's some variations here, they're really not differences. You just have to look a little deeper and get acquainted with the writing. In the slant, and this is not showing up quite as well as
I
my,
actually have a colored version here that I can put on the Elmo.
that'd be nice.
Thank you.
Well, it does show up better.
Oh, this way?
There you go. Thank you. All right. Now the slant. I've tried to extend the lines so that they're a lot easier to see and they're more visible. But in K1, K3, K5, most of the lines are rather vertical or slightly right. And there are a couple of strays that will be slanted a little backward, but many of them are more vertical or slightly to the right. K3, same thing. K5, again, either a bit of a right slant or a vertical slant. Now, Q1, the Anthony bond is more of your vertical, and then the town and address is a little bit more to the right. Nothing extreme. So that's very inconsistent. Also, the Q2 and the Q2B, still you have the vertical to slightly right, vertical to slightly right. So they're very similar, even though there may be a few that might go backward a little bit. Again, this guy does not write consistently. He has some consistent habits, but you will find so many variations in the writing in almost every area.
So the slant is inconsistent in the known documents, and the slant is also inconsistent in the question documents.
That's correct.
And that's a consistency. His slant varies in both.
That's correct.
And so, Ms. Pierce, you looked at speed, spacing, and slant. Is that standard practice for handwriting analysis?
Yes, it is.
And after you looked at speed, spacing, and slant, what did you look at next?
Then I started taking a closer look